so today we're going to be talking about dealing with your husband's difficult ex-wife. So yesterday we talked about the flip side of that. All right, so let's get started. All right, so the dynamics are a little bit different than what we talked about yesterday. Because yesterday we kind of talked about, okay, if the new wife is the one who's the bad actor in the scenario, right? She's the one who's kind of making things difficult and stirring the pot. You can kind of, in a way, kind of neutralize her in a way by using the tools, the co-parenting tools that I talked about yesterday, which is our Family Wizard. Again, I don't get anything for endorsing that product. I just think it's a great product. It's good for parents to know when they're co-parenting and they're having a difficult time communicating, with the other parent. It's great. I'm going to talk about that again a little bit today. So it's harder because usually, not always, but usually the ex-wife is the one who usually has custody of the kids most of the time. Dads, they're involved and they have, visitation rights that are all set up for them. That's great. And sometimes, too, they can work out with the other parent to have even more visitation than the court gave them, which is really wonderful. You always want that for the kids. They always have lots of contact with both parents. But say, for example, when you got married to your husband, things were okay with the ex-wife, but then things kind of deteriorated over time, over months or years. And you're really starting to see a pattern where she might be trying to interfere or make things more difficult for visitation. Those types of situations are really hard because the kids are always caught in the middle. And you see the effect on them. They take in everything, even though you may not say anything to them. They can tell when it's stress between their parents. They can tell, that kind of feeds into their subconscious of what's going on between the parents, even though they may be too small to even have language to describe or express their feelings. And so we want to make sure that we can create a situation as the new wife in the scenario, to try to create a situation as much as we can to try to improve the communication between your husband and his ex-wife, if you can. Sometimes, the ex-wife may not even be open to even, talking to you, being involved with you, looking in your direction, so sometimes things deteriorate to that level. If it is at that level, then, again, like what I said yesterday, you can go ahead and suggest to the ex-wife, hey, let's use a co-parenting tool like Family Wizard. You can just calendar what's going on with the kids. You can send us messages that way. If you don't want to talk to us, that's, fine. You don't have to. Then everything's in writing, and, you just send the message and don't have to think about it again. So hopefully if you can convince her to use a co-parenting tool like that to make things easier, that's really probably like the very first thing I would say. That would be your first priority that I would suggest to you. If she's not willing to do that, and, oh, that's too much work, and she doesn't want to do that, then unfortunately, let me just give you the bad news. You're going to have to put on your big girl pants and just make sure that your ex, his communication with her, that he just pretty much, until things get better, really kind of limits it to emails and text messages, unless it's something that's, urgent, then obviously, you might have to call her on the phone, is to say, hey, I'm stuck in traffic, I'm going to be late for picking up the kids this weekend, whatever it is. This is that type of situation. Obviously, you may have to get her on the phone, but, if you can text or keep it, like I said, email, do that. And, if things are bad enough, when you see that, that she's really just being very difficult and really trying to keep the kids from your husband, then really what I always suggest is document, document, document. And the best way that I suggest that you do that is you just set up a special folder on your computer and you just start documenting. And you can use an online calendar to document, just make entries on the calendar. That's probably the easiest way, because if you have to go into court with something like that, judges like seeing things on calendars. It makes things real easy. You just note, okay, on the calendar on, August 21st at, 12 p.m., this happened and that happened. You try to be as concise as you can. Or, if you don't like the calendar, just do kind of like a bullet points on a regular Word document. to say, on this date at this time, this happened. We had this incident. She made a scene, with the exchange of the kids, and, the kids started crying, those types of things get to give judges a real good understanding of what's going on and how it's impacting the kids. When you're kind of thinking about how you need to document these things, really it's helpful to keep in mind to always note how the kids are affected by it, whether they were upset the whole time that they were visiting, with you and your husband, where they, did they all of a sudden start wetting the bed again? Did they start regressing because they feel stress and don't know how to communicate, or, or afraid to talk about that? Those types of things. And sometimes too, depending on, what rights and responsibilities that you have in your husband's final divorce papers, sometimes you can actually, if you really feel it's necessary, during your husband's periods of visitation, you go take, the kids to counseling. So double check, make sure that your husband has the right to do that. Sometimes, things can be a little bit tricky. So if you need to consult with an attorney in your area to kind of go over and look through the papers and say, yeah, you have that right to do that, in whatever state that you live in, then definitely look into those types of things. And, that may be important for you to do that, and just helpful to the kids. A lot of times people don't realize kids, they absorb stress, and they can't deal with it the way that we can. And so it's just really important. So also too, if you're watching live right now, feel free to add a comment to the chat feature. Let's go ahead and make a comment. Or if you're watching the tape version of this, I'd love to hear from you. Go ahead and leave a comment, because somebody might look at this later on and say, you know what, that was really helpful, what that person, what that young lady said in the comment section. I'm gonna hold on to that, and it really helped me get through some of this stuff. Okay? So document. Just set up a folder. If it's a text message, sometimes people ask me, I don't know how to get my text messages onto my computer. Okay, the one way that's really helpful to me is the text messaging feature on my phone, my smartphone. I have an iPhone. You can just go ahead and forward text messages to your email. And then from you just open up your email on your computer and just save a copy of it on your hard drive on your computer. That's really probably the best way to do it that I can think of. So if you might have other features on your smartphone that you have that may be a little bit easier, less steps to go through, that's fine. That you can just go ahead and forward it to your computer and just have it all in one place. So that way, if you need to get your hands on it and print it out, if God forbid you end up having to go back to court, then that's really helpful. So make sure that you keep all of your emails and all of the text messages, especially the ones that are really kind of nasty and mean-spirited that you may be sending, I hate you, whatever it is. It really gives the judge a clear understanding of the behavior and the things that you have to deal with, that you have been dealing with, and the impact that it's had on the kids. And so that's what's most important. So say, for example, the other side of that is, when you met and married your husband, the ex-wife was always hell on wheels. Okay, so so you already know you always have to put on your big girl shoes, right? And when you're dealing with her, and if there is a way to, you feel like you might have an opportunity to kind of reach your hand out and just say, hey, can we put our weapons down and just kind of talk and just at least be civil to one another if we can't be somewhat cordial. When we go to the basketball games, for the kids, or, when we have, birthday parties for the kids, can we at least agree to, be able to just say hi to one another, and, I'll ask you if you need any help with anything for the, the party for the kids, can I help you arrange anything? Try to be as helpful as you can. Because I know you knew that it was a package deal when you got married to your husband, that the ex-wife was an issue, and you got kids to raise and all that good stuff. So that would be another thing that I would suggest. If you can, don't always think that it's hopeless, that you'll be able to kind of reach out to the ex-wife and hopefully maybe see if you can kind of turn things around, or at least make things a little better than what they are. The kids, they will appreciate it so much, even though they may not have language to express that. But when they see the adults in the family getting along, being able to work things out, that really sets them up to be able to have the type of skill set to approach problems and be able to resolve them in a constructive, helpful manner. Because kids are watching us. They are watching everything that we do, that we say. and you are a parent figure. You are a person in authority over them. And so when they see that we have the type of dispute resolution skills, to kind of technical way to put it, then it really helps them to really also acquire those types of skill sets and be able to grow up and have healthy relationships themselves. So really always think of things in that manner, not to say, why do I always have to be the one who, holds out the olive branch? Why do I always have to be the one to try to make peace and be nice and all that stuff? She's just doing nothing but being nasty to me. Obviously I'm not saying that, you ought to just go ahead and take somebody's verbal abuse. I'm not saying that. But if you feel that maybe an opportunity in your heart, whereas you can, maybe extend the hand, maybe during a family gathering, her heart may be a little bit more open and a little bit more tenderized at that point to be able to go ahead and, make things better, then go ahead and do that. So those are the things that I really suggest. Number one, if you're really having problems and you think you might have to end up going back to court, document, document, document. Set up a folder on your computer and just go ahead and document all the stuff that's going on, all the text messages, emails, or even if you don't have a text message or email and something happened that day, go ahead and make an entry on your bullet point Word document or in that calendar and just say, this happened, that happened, and I'm documenting this, and this is how it affected the kids. That's what's most important. The courts always want to know, they always want to act in the best interest of the children. And that's really what gets judges. That's another thing to know. You want to get the judge to act and do what you want them to do, him or her to do. Always put it in a framework of what is in the best interest of the kids. Those are the bells and whistles, especially if judges are elected in the state or in the county that you live in. If judges are elected, they want to be reelected. And so, if you start talking about what's in the best interest of the kids and how the ex-wife's behavior is negatively affecting the kids, then that is the best way to frame and present your evidence or your argument or your point of view to the court in terms that they really understand, and the bells and whistles will start to go off in the judge's head and say, hey, this is how the kids are being negatively affected. I need to do something. So I hope that you found that to be helpful. Take care. Have a good weekend.